Hi, just going to do a quick rundown of the Little Thunder pickup setup with the 2 amps by request. Just to get started, this is the Little Thunder pickup. It's the one in the middle there with the light on it. And what it is it's just a guitar pickup that has an extra set of magnets. So one of the coils of the humbucker only picks up the bottom 2 strings. And what that allows you to do is isolate the bottom 2 strings and drop them 1 or 2 octaves depending on your choice, and use it as a bass signal, and it outputs in stereo using a stereo cable, so you can do a full 2 amp setup. So you can have 2 separate pedal boards, 2 separate amps, which is great because it sounds like you have a bass and a guitar player rather than just the guitar player, but only one person is needed to play it. So if you're watching this video, it's probably because you like Origami Angel and you're trying to get that tone, because that's, as far as I know, one of the main emo bands that's using the setup right now. I'll just do a quick rundown of the whole thing. I'm going to switch the camera real quick so you can see what's going on and get right back to it. All right, I've got the camera flipped around now, so we can get started going over the gear. As always, with the Origami Angel stuff, I'm using my FSR Jaguar, which is the same guitar that Ryland's number 1 is. Some unique things about this that I think are worth mentioning. Unlike a regular Jag, these have a stop tailpiece and an ABR or tunematic bridge, which is much like a Les Paul. So it does have a different feel to playing, and there's no trem on it like there is on a standard Jag. Something to note is there's a pretty big distance between the bridge and the tailpiece. So the break angle of the strings over the bridge is kind of shallow, and so there's not a lot of downforce keeping the strings in there, so they occasionally pop out. So to fix this, I added a product called a buzz stop, which, as you can see, shortens the distance from where the strings break relative to the bridge, increasing the angle, increasing the downforce, keeping them in. So even on like a big band, they don't pop out at all, which is really nice. And then now to the more interesting part, the Little Thunder pickup. There's a few different LEDs on it to indicate what's going on. And it is controlled with capacitive touch, so you just touch it on the side to interface with it. So when it's off, you turn it on with a touch, and it turns on with a red LED. That's -1 octaves. Green, which is the second touch, is -2. And then up here, you can turn on and off low note priority, which means with it on, it will only shift down the lowest note you are playing, and not everything you're playing on the bottom 2 strings. So that can be kind of nice. If I have it on 1 octave shifted down and low note priority, that is what I tend to use when doing the Origami Angel stuff. So, as I mentioned, the guitar outputs stereo from the Little Thunder. And then I'll show you the signal chain real quick, both physical and digital. So each end of the stereo cable I have running into inputs 1 and 2 in my quad cortex. Then I have 2 outputs for 2 separate signal chains, 1 for bass, 1 for guitar. And then over on the QC itself, here's what we got going. The top row is the guitar chain with all my regular pedals for like distortion, whatever. You can put anything there, or you could run it into an actual pedal board. And then I have my amp and my cab sim. The second line is the bass, which that's just an amp and a compressor for me. You can, again, do whatever signal chain you would normally do. And then the bottom one is just a different guitar amp for a more clean tone. And then the output for that and the sim cab. Ordinarily, when I'm playing and not recording, I would do the output of this with no cab sim to a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 170, and then run that to a real cab. I like my Friedman small box. That gives you the amp in the room feel that you don't really get with FRFR. I think that's something that I miss with the simulations, is it doesn't feel like you have an amp in a room. Because it's simulating a mic, it sounds like you're listening to a recording of a guitar, not, playing into an amp. So that's more of a preference thing, but they sound killer either way. So with the foot switches, I have them bound up so that with this one, there's a noise gate that just gates off everything that comes through, and that's set to gate the bass. So this is how I switch off and on the bass. You can also do it with a physical switch on your guitar, but when you're playing, it's much easier to just use the foot switch. And then I have another one that switches from the clean to the dirty guitar tone. And those are the 2 main ones, really. Everything else is just standard pedals, so I can add, different distortions, and that's basically how I run that. All right, here's a quick demo. So first, I'll start by playing something without the bass signal on, and then I'll play something with the bass signal on. So here's a little bit of the title track without it. So as you can hear, because it's only the bottom two strings, you can still do all of your like runs and harmonics without muddying them up. But you have a lot of that bass to really widen the sound and add a lot of depth. And then with the way that I have my QC set up, or you could do this with regular pedals or an A/B switch, whatever, you can easily transition on and off as you're playing. So, for example, the end of Escape Rope into the title track. I think that contrast and transition is really cool. So here's like an example of that. The end of Escape Rope, obviously, everything's already in, the bass, whatever. And then it cuts to the intro of the title track where it starts to build again. And so it cuts out the bass. So that would be... So having like either end of that book ended with the bass and having the contrast of the section without the bass, I think is really cool. And being able to do that with this pickup is something that's really nice. Additionally, something that's really nice is because the bass is only on the bottom two strings and not everything, like it would be with an octave pedal, is you're able to do a lot of, like cool contrasting bits with the tapping riffs while still having the bass engaged. So here's another playing example. This is a little bit of 24-hour drive-through. So as you can see, because it, again, is only the bottom two strings, you can do your tapping over, like, over whatever you're playing, and the harmonics still ring out nice without getting muddied up by the lower bass signal like they would if you were using an octave pedal. So I guess just a couple more examples of that is, like, in switching out, like, intros and breakdowns into, you know, the verses or whatever to create contrast. So here's a little bit of Self-Destruct. And then that there showed why I think the low note priority is really helpful. So again, low note priority is on right now, and that just means only the lowest note gets that bass. So with the part right here, like the... I only want that low C sharp. Whereas if I have low note priority off, it would be both, and it kind of muddies up the sound. So here's that. I don't know if you can hear it. It's kind of hard to pick out, but that note is in this one. It's a different sound then. So that low note priority on the pickup helps a lot as well to really keep everything cleaned up. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to show with that. Hopefully this helped, and if you do want to get a little Thunder pickup, like I mentioned before, they are technically still selling like the V2 direct to consumer through their own website, but mine's been on back order for like a couple years now, or almost a couple years, and other people I think are in a similar position. There has been communication indicating that they will start shipping again, but if you want one right now, the most surefire way to get one is to just go on Reverb or some other music selling site and try to pick one up used. Because used, they're pretty similar in price to what they are just direct, like $200 to $300 depending on the deal you can find. And that'll guarantee you can get one. And I think the V1 works just fine. Ryland still uses the V1 in a couple of his guitars, so I think it'll get the job done. And it sounds really cool. Adds a lot of depth to your playing if you're looking to get a bigger sound out of just a 2 or a 3-piece band. So hope this helped. If it did, feel free to leave a like. And if you have any other questions, leave a comment. And as always, I'll try to respond as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.